My name is Min-hee from Kaiser Permanente. Mark has asked me to speak today about CMT and what CMT donation is all about. There are some details that we're still working through, so I will share with you everything I know about CMT donation today. Okay. Before we talk about CMT, here's a brief introduction about Kaiser Permanente. Okay. Kaiser Permanente is the nation's largest nonprofit health plan. It is an integrated healthcare delivery system of hospitals, health plan, and multi-specialty medical groups. We have 18 million members, and we have about 14,000 physicians. And we employ about 160,000 people. And we are in 8 regions, covering 9 states, as well as the District of Columbia. And in 2010, our revenue was $44.2 billion. And by the way, this is not a geography lesson. Hawaii is not south of Texas. And a brief introduction of how health IT is organized at Kaiser Permanente. So in the middle of everything is what we branded Kaiser Permanente Health Connect. And that is a suite of applications from Epic System, plus technical components that Kaiser have implemented. And together, we've branded the term KP Health Connect. And there are, I'm not sure if you can see, okay, it's hard to see, but on the left-hand side is a list of applications. So we cover a suite of applications from inpatient to ambulatory to emergency department, radiology, and so on and on and on. And on the right-hand side is the systems and tools that draw data out of KP Health Connect, which includes patient care registries and so on. On the bottom, okay, this is the patient health portal, and it also draws data out of KP Health Connect. Okay, so now let's talk about what is CMT and what is our role in KP Health Connect. CMT stands for Convergent Medical Terminology, and it is KP's enterprise terminology. It is first designed to converge, as the name indicates, multiple terminologies and taxonomies or code sets into a single central terminology system. So CMT is the terminology provider, basically, for KP Health Connect that supports functionalities such as order entry, result retrieval, clinical documentation, and even charge capture. CMT covers domains such as medical surgical procedures, problem list, diagnoses, organisms, specimen type, body sites, anything that's clinical. And CMT started more than 15 years ago. And today, CMT team consists of 10 full-time terminologists, ranging from physicians to nurses and laboratory specialists. We also have adjunct professionals such as the project managers, QA and release manager. We have a technical team that supports the CMT terminologists as well as develops the tool sets that CMT uses. We also have KP physicians who practice part-time and who works with CMT part-time. And many of these physicians have been working with SNOMED CT for quite a long time. Okay. Continuing on with what is CMT. CMT, like any others, have evolved over time. CMT began as a vocabulary server, which was an integral part of the earlier versions of the electronic medical record that KP have implemented. Well, when KP adopted Epic System, CMT also had to transform because the Epic Systems terminology structure was completely different. So today, CMT actually sits outside of the electronic medical record system. Okay. And today, CMT is a collection of various tools and databases and services that help support and maintain the end user terminology component, the standard terminology component, decision support and queries and reports, as well as administrative codes, and coupled with the release process and the request process. Okay, CMT. Well, CMT is governed by many governing bodies. Kaiser Permanente is a very large organization. And I'll tell you briefly how we operate. So you see CMT team in the middle, and we have 8 KP regions. They can submit requests for new terms or changes to terms or indicate other business needs. It comes to our team, and then we work with folks like the coders to code map to our terminology and validate our terminology. And we also work with Internet Services Group, and they provide the patient-facing terminology against the provider terminology. We have governing bodies such as the Code Governance Group, and they provide the oversight and sets policies and resolves issues related to administrative coding. We have compliance team that audits the content periodically. We have the regional care delivery management team or the leadership team that provides strategies or approves or rejects certain strategic decisions. And we have what we call a terminology working group. And this is the group that we work with very closely. And they're not terminologists. They're actually practicing KP Health Connect physicians. And there are representatives of these physicians from each of the regions, as well as other subject matter expertise, and we meet with them every 2 weeks to discuss the heuristics and usability of the end user terms. Okay. And what we build goes out to KP Health Connect, and now what we build will go to the IHTSDO as well as the NLM. Okay. Well, why did we adopt IHTSDO Workbench? And this decision was made back in early part of 2009, and this is before Kaiser even thought about donating anything. And it's because we needed something to meet our organization's needs. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, CMT today is a collection of various tool sets. And having too many disparate tools to complete our job, it was quite inefficient. It did our job, but it was inefficient, and there had to be a better way to do things. And of course, inefficiency increases costs. Another problem was lack of visibility or accessibility by teams other than the CMT. Okay, we wanted CMT to be useful for everyone who has a need to know within the organization. But we had a hard time showing that. Okay. And the management of the interface or the end user terminology was not very well integrated with the reference or standard terminology side. And that sometimes causes confusion about what does the term mean. And also, we end up doing duplicate work. So on one hand, we create the interface terminology or the end user terminology, and later we try to map them to SNOMED or other reference terminologies. And that was doing duplicate work. And some time ago, we also lost the ability to model new concepts. And as an enterprise there's always a need to create new concepts because, as we all know, SNOMED CT is not 100% complete, and neither is other standard terminologies. And we also needed to converge or integrate multiple terminologies out there. SNOMED CT is one of them. Other code sets, IHTSDO, CPT4, but we had no way to integrate that in a central, in a single platform. And collaborating on terminology development, even within Kaiser organization, was difficult to do, let alone outside of Kaiser organization. So we set on a roadmap to evaluate and come up with something different. And it was about that time IHTSDO also announced they'll make Workbench open source. So we piloted it in 2009, and it proved that we can extend the IHTSDO Workbench to represent our terminology model, as well as extend it to meet our operational needs. So the migration path started in 2010, and we have 3 more years to go to completely migrate our disparate legacy tool sets into Workbench. And our proprietary term for the Workbench is KP Enterprise Terminology Tool. And at the end of 3 years, we hope to be back to a true convergent CMT. Here's a quick summary of what our terminology model looks like. On the left-hand side is the CMT, and on the right-hand side is the KP Health Connect. And as I mentioned, CMT is not inside the KP Health Connect. So we manage it outside of KP Health Connect and create the processes to extract out of CMT information that it needs for KP Health Connect, and then import it into KP Health Connect. And through the Epic's intra-connect system, it gets propagated out to all of the instances of Epic system within the enterprise. So CMT is a concept-based model. So you see here, this is an existing SNOMED concept for congestive heart failure. So you see the SNOMED CT ID and basic attributes, descriptions and defining relationships and so on. And on top of that, we've added the descriptions that we need for end user terminology. So you see there CHF, okay, that is the term that KP physicians wants to use or see within KP Health Connect. So we added that, linked it to the SNOMED CT as a logical extension of the description attribute. And because it is being used within KP Health Connect, we also associate attributes to that description. And one of the attributes that you see there in green is the community ID. And this is the identifier that's known inside the KP Health Connect. And we also added the mappings to the concept ICD-9 CM and ICD-10 CM. How does a translation of Epic terminology to standard terminology occur inside the Epic system? And that again is through the Epic's terminology structure. So what we have to do is, and this is easily done because we've already incorporated the end user terminology as part of an extension of the SNOMED CT. So we can easily extract the SNOMED CT ID, which is the 4234007, that represents the congestive heart failure concept, and the community ID of that CHF description. And don't know if I can show is there a mouse here? And then you can see that down there is a little remark called EXM, and that is where the translations between the Epic's internal terminology and standard terminology is housed.